And so within 2 minutes, let's wait for a few more students to join and we'll start the session. I request all the students to please text your friends to come fast and join the webinar. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this exciting webinar on development using Python and AI, organized especially for second and third year students of CSC, AI, and ML. Today, we have with us Mr. Karun Karthik, a passionate full stack developer and educator with over 3 years of industry experience. He has worked at Phenom, where he built scalable web applications, and also interned at Samsung, gaining hands-on experience in enterprise-level software development. Karan is proficient in technologies like Python, React, Node.js, Java, AWS, and more. He has also worked as a freelancer, building custom solutions for startups and businesses. Apart from development, he's deeply involved in teaching and mentoring, having guided over 1,500 students through boot camps in web development and software engineering. He also shares open source resources on data structures and algorithms to support learners like us. We are truly excited to have him here today to guide us through the practical aspects of Python and AI development. Let's give him a warm welcome to Mr. Karun Karthik. We welcome you to the webinar, sir, and we are truly excited to learn everything about AI and Python. So we are very grateful for having you today with us. And we are very much excited and we are eagerly waiting to start the session and learn many more new things, which help us a lot as we especially belong to artificial intelligence and machine learning. We all know Python plays a keen role. So we are very much excited to learn new things. And so one thing, sir, like we would like to create this memory, and I request all the students and our mentor also to please turn on the camera. So we will be taking a picture first before we start the session.
Yeah, sure.
I request all the students to please turn on your cameras for 2 minutes. I request everyone to please plan accordingly and turn on your cameras. హ్యాపీ టు సీ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ యూ గైస్. దో మనకి వాళ్ళ హాలిడే అయినా వచ్చి జాయిన్ అయినందుకు ముందుగానే థ్యాంక్స్ అందరికి. Very few participants have turned on. I request everybody to please turn on your cameras. Thank you, everyone. You can turn off your cameras, or if you're comfortable, you can keep it on also. And I now hand over this to Mr. Karan Karthik to please continue with the session. And like from our student side, I'm thanking you before itself, like for getting and making us learn such great things. And it's a great opportunity for me for taking this part. And thank you. And I'm handing over this for you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Berma. So, firstly, I want to congratulate each and every one of you for taking out your time on a Saturday and attending the event. So, yeah, the pretty much intro was good. I mean, it pretty much summed up what I do and everything about me. So, yeah, I'm Karan Karthik. I currently work as a PD2 at Phenom. Phenom is a HR tech solutions company wherein we build, what do you say, entire interview solutions the way we have Microsoft Suite, right? For Word, what do you say, PowerPoint and everything. Similarly, we have a solution for interviewing, creating jobs, hiring candidates, and then sending out offers for them and everything else. So yeah, and the other thing is, I would like to have the session more interactive. Okay, so in case if at any point of time if you face any queries or anything, make sure either you drop it in the chat or you can unmute yourself and you can ask them. Okay, sounds good. Yes or no? Cool. Yeah. So yeah. Let me just quickly share my screen and we'll go through the topics of what's the webinar about and what do we actually aim through this session. Maybe I'll take it for the next 30 or 35 minutes. Okay. And yeah, just give me a minute. Yeah, and just to confirm, my audio quality is good, right? And also the screen is visible. Can you please confirm that? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I think many of you guys are from second or third years, right? Am I correct? Okay, cool. Yeah. So how many of you have some programming experience? Let it be C, C++, Java, Python, anything. You can unmute yourself and just let me know. And if you have any experience, which language do you expertise in or have some knowledge about? Anyone? Yeah, I see some thumbs up coming. Okay, Node.js, Python, cool. Yeah, that's good. So, yeah, today's session would mostly be about building scalable solutions. Okay, and then we'll see it. What are the specific technologies or tech stacks that we could consider when we build scalable solutions? Okay, and we'll also include discuss on how to include AI because that's the hot kick of this decade. Okay, so how we can make the traditional app development or any web applications development turn into a smarter development. Okay, so yeah, and this would be the timeline for today. We'll first look at the industry trends and job market. As many of you would have already known that currently there's a recession that's been going on since the last 2 years. Okay, and we'll see how it has affected the job market and the roles. Okay, and then we'll take a look at what is an AI. Hopefully, many of you should be knowing it because you guys are coming from that particular branch. And then we'll also see with the advancement of AI, right, what are the new job roles that were being introduced. And then we'll take a look at what are the trends of coding. Okay, how AI has impacted. Just a minute. Yeah, so how AI has impacted the way we code, the way we build the way we actually build scalable solutions, and then we'll take a look at how the entire life cycle of software development is being impacted by AI. Can anyone just tell me, I mean, any software development life cycle that you guys know about? Any idea on it? Anyone? I would appreciate if anyone could unmute and let us know. Anyone? Okay, I take that as a no. So we have several types of software development life cycles. You have waterfall model and many other models. Okay, so yeah, we'll see how that is being impacted. Okay, and then we'll see what it actually takes to build a smart application. So what are the different parts of it? Maybe the UI, the backend, and the intermediate business logic, and how it's being affected. Okay. Venkata Teja says lifecycle of software, waterfall model implementation presentation. Yeah, cool, good one. And then we'll take a look at what do we actually learn in this particular internship program. Okay, and maybe the last 5 or 10 minutes we can have it for a Q&A session. Is it fine? Does the plan sound good? Cool. So yeah, let's quickly go through the recent tech recession and what has actually happened. Okay, so during the COVID phase, right, that's from 2022, maybe 2022 or 2023. That is when majority of the companies started opting for remote working. Okay, and they were so much into it that it almost cut off their company running costs. So the electricity bill or the usual rents that they pay for running the companies, that was cut off, and all of them were actually moved to hiring more and more workforce. Okay, so with that, even for a work that requires maybe 2 or 3 people, they had around 7 to 8 people. That's more like 2.5 times of recruitment that has happened. And because of that, right, after a time when we actually reverted back to the original scenario, that is when people had to, I mean, the companies had to cut down on this extra, what do you say, investment or cost that they have made. So that is why we are seeing a recent recession that has happened. Okay, so yeah, if you take a look at the first point, it says overhiring after the COVID boom, and then we have venture capital slowdown. So earlier, right, during the COVID phase, every company was more focused on growing. Okay, by growth I mean gaining more monetary stuff and establishing their base and other what do you say? Does anyone have any question? Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, so it's basically to raise funds, gain evaluation, and then get listed so that you'll be having stocks and other stuff. But then once the actual scenario started hitting, right, that is when companies actually realized that they need to be more on the stable side of it. Growth is good, but then they should also be sustainable in the market. Post COVID, if you see, right, just for the delivery app, maybe we have Swiggy, Zomato, And also for the recent, 10-minute grocery delivery, we also have Zepto and other stuff. So for a similar use case, there are multiple solutions that are in the market. So it is enough to, sustain here. Okay. And then see the third point, it states that shift to profitability over growth. The companies have vastly grown over the last 2 or 3 years. Now they want to mainly stay on the profitability side. And I think most of you would know this. Do you know the company Zomato? Yes or no? Obviously, you should be know. Right. So, what do you think? Does it run on profits or does it run? Is it currently a loss-making company? Any guesses? Profits. I would say in the last quarter, right, it was mostly on the loss-making side because it has spent a lot of amount on the marketing phase of it, wherein in the actual sales that it made, there wasn't much scale on it. Okay, so even Zomato had laid off a lot of people in India. And then the major point, right, the key point of our discussion today, the advent of AI, it actually had a, what do you say, a deeper cut on the monotonous roles in our job. So whatever day-to-day tasks, okay, which are repeatable and which cannot actually be automated, they are at a risk now because just with a single AI tool, you'll be able to eradicate all of them. Okay, so AI has become another cause of the tech recession that has happened, and it is expected that people who don't use AI in your future jobs, you are expected to be replaced with people who use AI better than you or AI altogether. Okay, is it clear? Any queries regarding this? Yes or no? We'll be moving to the next session. So if it's a thumbs up, it means we do have a query. Cool. I think it looks good. So yeah, with this particular recession happening, right? Many of us think that these layoffs and hiring freeze that has happened, right? They are bad luck or it has just happened when we graduated out of college. But if you see the recent tech trends, right, they're not actually, what do you say, unfortunate or something, but they're more on the strategic side of how companies handle these kind of things. Okay. So yeah, let's move to the next topic. What is an AI? Anyone from the crowd? What's an AI? Don't say artificial intelligence. I need something better than that.
It's extension of human intelligence.
Okay, I can say that. Good. Anyone else? Any other answer? Cool. Yeah. So let's see what an AI actually is. So let's go through the bookish definition first. It's the ability of computers to make human-like decisions. Okay. It involves learning, reasoning, and decision making using data. Okay. So this data, right? This is the data with which a particular AI has actually been trained. So you give AI different kinds of. So let's say if you give AI a bad data, it would give you bad results. If you give AI a good data set, it would give you better results. Okay, and then the basically the aim of AI is to replicate human intelligence, and ultimately it will, what do you say? Ultimately, it will make the life of a human easy on the safer side. Okay, and it learns from data, adapts, and performs tasks like humans. And AI actually has these subfields: machine learning, natural language processing, robotics, and deep learning. Okay, so yeah, now we'll take a look at the different types of AIs. Okay, so here we can say that there are three broad categories of AIs. The first thing is a narrow AI. Okay, so narrow AI is basically it is designed for a specific set of tasks. Okay, so let's say you guys binge watch on Netflix, right? So based on the series that you watched today, you might have gotten a recommendation tomorrow night. Okay, so the AI agent of Netflix is confined to what is it, generating recommendations based on your next task. So if you go and ask the AI agent of Netflix, maybe to summarize an article on web page, it wouldn't be able to do that because it's not capable of doing it. Okay. And the other use cases may be spam filters. Okay. And then we also have the recommendation engine on Amazon and what is a Flipkart. There's a though they basically what do you say suggest you items based on your previous purchases and other stuff. Okay. And that's the first part, narrow AI. And then we have something called as semi-strong AI. Okay. And before going there, right, how many of you actually used or heard of ChatGPT? Anyone? Can anyone tell what ChatGPT is?
Right now, it's our life savior.
Right. Yeah, I get that. Even I felt like when I was in college, right? I was in college in the past over the last 3 years, before 3 years. So that time I felt so all the assignments that you guys are currently undertaking, they would be a lot simpler if you have ChatGPT. Okay. Yes, correct. ChatGPT is an LLM that works on prompts. Okay. So now a follow-up question: what is an LLM? Any guesses there? So yeah, LLM is a large language model. Okay. So whatever, yeah, correct. Oh, that's an interesting name, Telugu cartoons. Nice. Yeah. So LLM is a large language model. Large language model is basically a model that is trained on billions and trillions of parameters. Okay, parameters I mean the variants of data. What are the different types of data that we given, and basically that sums up the variety of data you give to the large language model, the various kind of tasks that it can perform. Okay. So yeah, semi-strong AI, it is more flexible and it can do a variety of tasks. Example, your ChatGPT, and you also have something called as Claude AI, and you also have DeepSeek.ai. So these are basically different AI models coming up from various sources. Okay, just a minute. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, coming back to ChatGPT, right? Yeah, it basically solves various kinds of tasks that could involve maybe summarizing an article for you or any kind of suggestions that you want. Maybe you give them, maybe you give the ChatGPT or predefined context, and based on that, you can ask other inputs. Okay, maybe if I would have to use ChatGPT as a college student, I would say, I'm in my second year of college graduation. Okay, and these are the subjects that I've learned, and maybe I want to become an AI engineer or product engineer or product manager in future. So what are the steps that I need to take? Okay. So this would also get you better suggestions, and it will also give you inputs on prompt engineering. That's also something we'll talk about. Okay. And yeah, so this is the semi-strong AI. Semi-strong AI is basically it will be performing some other tasks as well. Okay, not a single task, but the tasks that it can perform is diversified. Okay, cool here. Any queries on this? Narrow AI, semi-strong AI? You're good? Yeah, I would take that as yes. So yeah, now right. Till now, whatever we have discussed actually exists. Either the Netflix recommendation or ChatGPT or Claude AI, Google, Gemini, and other stuff. And the actual AI is something that is called as artificial general intelligence. Okay, artificial general intelligence. This is something that is more on the research side till now. Okay, it has this hasn't had any form actually, but companies like Google and OpenAI, they are predicting artificial general intelligence to be coming up maybe in the couple of years, maybe 3 to 4 years down the line. Okay, so Yeah, just to relate, right? You guys have watched the movie Robo, okay? So whatever intelligence that that particular robot had is the artificial general intelligence. Okay, it can learn, reason, and adapt like any human across any task, and it can outperform humans. Okay, that's what actually happens. But the only downside of it is these wouldn't be under our control. Okay, so there should be strict ethical and what do you say, governmental control laws to handle these particular kind of artificial general intelligence. Okay, not everybody should be able to build this. Okay. Good, right? Yeah. So now we'll see any queries, anyone? Good, good. So now with this particular AI coming up, right, we'll actually see what are the different roles that are being created, okay, and what are the impact, what's the impact on the existing roles, okay. So me being in the industry, it's been around 3 years, right? So when I actually started programming, it was around the second year of my college. That is when actually COVID has started, and I initially started with web development. Later, I picked up on this machine learning stuff as well. Okay, so that time, yeah, before that, does anyone know about a website called as Stack Overflow? Anyone? Yes or no? Or how many of you have actually used it? Cool, good job. So yeah, when I started my programming journey, right, I was more okay, yeah, I was more on the Stack Overflow for the debugging purpose, because that time we don't have any sort of these chat GPTs and other things. Okay. And when I was having a conversation with my senior director in my company, right, the other day, he was a pre-Google developer. Okay. So by pre-Google developer, I mean by the time he actually started software engineering, right, Google even wasn't available. So at that time, his work was mostly on, I mean, yeah, it's mostly relied on books. He used to refer a lot of books for the errors and how to handle them. Okay. Later, from books, we moved to websites. We are relied on Google and Stack Overflow. So now, from Stack Overflow, we are more relying on the ChatGPT and other generative tools. Okay. Now, going forward, right, we'll have these integrated directly in your terminal itself, or the what is it, by terminal, the command line interface that we have. Okay. So you just need to give them a prompt saying, I want to maybe build a game. Okay. And then it will generate the entire code for you. Okay. Any queries, anyone? Cool. Yeah. So if AI does all the work, what is your part in it? Okay. AI is just a text generation tool or a code generation tool. It's ultimately you who will be the decider of it. Okay. So if you see, right, yeah, training it and prompting it, correct. So the way AI is being used today in the industry is mostly for the automation of routine work, maybe content creation, email drafting, image generation, form filling, bug tracking, etc. Okay. But then AI as a coding agent, so we have many tools like GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, and we also have a new editor. This editor is called as Cursor. Okay, I'll just drop it here. Maybe you can cursor.ai. Okay, maybe you guys can go and explore it at a later point of time. You just need to give it a prompt. Okay, it has something called AGI, right? Artificial generative interface intelligence. Yeah, near future, as in companies are predicting it to be happening around maybe 4 or 5 years down the line. And these companies are Google and what do you say, OpenAI that has predicted it. Okay. So with this particular tools coming up, right, it is entirely text generated. Okay. You just need to prompt it, and that will give you the response. And you just need to make sure that all these puzzle pieces, right, they just fit in the right spot. Okay. And other major, what do you say, roles that are impacted even in our firm, right? The firm where I work right now is the uh, non-development part. They are mostly on the marketing, HR, and operations people because their work can easily be replaced. Right? And the new job roles that are being added with the advent of AI in this particular industry is AI engineering. So AI engineering, prompt engineering, and AI automation expert, many of the companies use these three terms interchangeably. Okay. Will AI completely replace human tasks and operations? There could be a time when it is possible, but I don't see a complete replacement. Okay. And then we have full stack development with generative AI integration. This is something that will bloom in the coming future. Okay. And then data analysts who can clean and visualize AI process data. This is basically how, as of today, data analysts, they basically go through a long, tedious process of getting the data and then cleaning it and then training it, then gaining insights from that. But if you just use your AI, right, because AI does all the templatized stuff for you, okay? And then AI product manager is basically a product manager who uses AI to see how much the product can scale and grow. Okay. And yeah, so what exactly has changed in coding with the advent of AI technologies? Can anyone guess what has changed in coding? Any guesses? Small note about job roles. Will AI replace web dev? How to enter AML engineering field or gain placement in ML field? It is possible to develop ChatGPT. So see, the thing is, rather than AI replacing web development, it has actually replaced a lot of machine learning engineers. Okay, because error checking simple syntaxes. I will come to them. So yeah, with this particular AI in the job role, right? It depends on the model that you build. Okay. So to answer the question that is it possible to develop ChatGPT? Obviously, as a single individual, will not be able to do it because that requires a lot of computational resources, time, investment, and you also need to have a what do you say, kind of a mentor. Okay, because these are actually the PhD scholars or researchers who actually has spent their lifetime on it. Okay, saying which particular configuration of a model, what would be the maximum output that it could be giving us. Okay, so AI will not completely replace any developer, but it will surely replace developers who are not using AI. Okay, is it clear? You should be able to actually interpret or think through how you can use AI in your daily life. Okay. So yeah, what exactly has changed in coding? Let's go through that. That's really interesting. Okay. So yeah, before AI integration, right? Maybe just let's rewind a few years ago. Before AI tools like ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot and other stuff, developers used to actually sit and brainstorm thoroughly. So before every feature that we used to develop, right, we used to go into a meeting room, think through all the possible cases, and identify the loopholes where the code could actually break, and basically put a lot of effort onto the design part of it rather than going on to the development directly. Okay, but with the advent of AI, right, all these things are actually a lot simpler. And let's say before earlier, when you want to build a simple login form, maybe you try googling it, go through few Stack Overflow threads, maybe pull out few code snippets from here and there, and club all of them until they work. Okay, and even the boilerplate code, right? By boilerplate code, I mean basically the starter template code that we usually have. Okay, so maybe you can call the Hello World program as a boilerplate code for getting started with programming, something like that. Okay, so yeah, and so even setting up this particular basic stuff, right, for big projects, it used to be a tedious task. Okay, and even for experienced developers, it used to be tough. So think of the amount of effort it is required from a fresher or a beginner, okay? Because the learning curve was so high. Okay, and all the other roles like AI engineer or machine learning engineer, right? They were seen as a job roles only for something who are PhD holders or specialists, basically math and statistics specialists. Okay, and so everything, to sum up, everything used to be so manual. The learning curve was steep, and yeah. So since you're actually going through multiple, what do you say, websites to gain insights, right? It's actually time consuming, and this would actually further, what do you say, push your deadlines. Okay, and we also spoke about the specialization part. So now after AI getting introduced, right, everything is being handled at a single point. Okay, you just have your ChatGPT or your GitHub Copilot. You enter a prompt. Again, prompt engineering is very important, and yeah, based on the prompt, it will give you suggestions, and you pick up your bits and pieces from each and every query that you're putting and build your final application. Okay, and with this particular thing, it will also give you the suggested architecture. So no more hours of spending during the design phase. Okay, so you'll be able to prototype it fastly, and you can build the MVP in hours. Can anyone tell me what's an MVP? Any guesses? Yeah, so MVP is basically like a demo product. It's actually called as a minimal viable product. Okay, so with this, this basically contains all the base features that are required. And earlier, we usually used to make this MVP product to go for funding. Okay, so these things can actually be built within no time. All it just takes is a single prompt. Okay, and yeah, so now with the advent of AI, right, we actually need not know the entire language syntax and what do you say, all the rules of a programming language to get started. Okay, but you should actually know what's the flow you should be following. Okay, and developers now consume AI as APIs. Okay, and since it's an API, we don't need to have any background knowledge of machine learning and other stuff. And yeah, before that, does anyone know what's an API? Any idea on it? Anyone?
So I think it's an application programming interface.
Yeah, correct. So API is called as an application programming interface. So it's basically the backend code that you write. Okay, you write a backend code. Okay, some piece of business logic, and you'll expose it as an API to the front end. Okay, so your front end basically triggers this particular request with some particular data. The data is called as payload. Okay, and with that, you'll be able to interact with your UI and the backend. So we'll also learn on how to develop these APIs later. Okay, so yeah, and the fifth point, that's the most interesting point, the way the coding skills are evolving. So earlier, our focus was mainly on writing code, trying to know on the business logic and try to make it as optimized as possible. But now it's more on understanding the AI response based on the query that you've used and assembling bits and pieces of it. Okay, prompt engineering and API integration are as valuable as raw coding because that is when you'll actually know when to integrate what. Okay, clean architecture, project structures, and deployment still matter because the architecture, though AI suggests you a better architecture, it is ultimately you who would actually know if it's a better fit for your use case. Clear till here, everyone? Cool. So now let's move to the next topic. What is vibe coding? Anyone? This term has recently come up, maybe over the last 2 months or 3 months. At least I'm aware of it over the last 3 to 4 months. So yeah, vibe coding is not the traditional way of coding. Okay, vibe coding is more like go with the flow type of coding. Yeah, generating code from prompts using AI agents. Correct, exactly. So if you see, right, vibe coding is considered as the relaxed, confident, and creative style of coding enabled by AI power tools. Okay, it's entirely AI that gives you the code. You just give them the prompts. Okay, and I work in this hiring side of the firm, right? So I've actually seen resumes of people that include vibe coding as one of the skills. Okay, yeah. So you're not stuck googling errors or reading 12 tabs of Stack Overflow. Okay, instead you just ask the AI agent saying I'm facing this kind of problem and how do I overcome it. Okay, and then the better part of vibe coding is you need not debug your code. Okay, you just say that it isn't working, it will give you a new flow altogether. But you should be able to understand that which one is more optimal, either the O of n square solution or O of log n or O of n solution. Okay, so this is a iterative approach. You give one iteration, you'll check if it is working fine or not. If it's working fine, or else you will try another approach. Okay, yeah, and now we'll see the comparison of vibe coding versus traditional coding. Okay, so yeah, in traditional coding you code from scratch, start from zero. Okay, vibe coding is more on the prompt that you give to the AI agent. Okay, and then Stack Overflow tabs, that is some funny comparison that I've put. Okay, can ignore that. And then problem solving, here you need to manually debug, maybe do some trial and error if you're not familiar with the error. Okay, whereas for vibe coding you prompt an AI. Okay, and it will give you some better response than the prior one, and you'll add the response. Okay, and entry barrier, by entry barrier I meant what does it actually start to get, I mean what does it actually take to get started with coding. Okay, traditional coding you need to go through the programming language entirely and then get started with it, whereas vibe coding it is just an English prompt that you give. Okay, and speed, yeah, traditional coding is slower because entirely human dependent, you need to think through thoroughly and then make the decisions of it, whereas for vibe coding it is more fast and more scalable. Okay, mood, that's again some funny comparison that I put up. Yeah, it's often stressful to code. I've experienced that in 2022. Whereas vibe coding, it's more on the creative side of it. Okay, focus here mostly on the syntax and logic because if your syntax is wrong, your application would actually break. Okay, whereas on vibe coding, it's more dependent on the previous input that you've given and the output that you've received, and with every iteration, right, you need to make sure on the logical flow if that particular logic is being correctly built or not. In style, traditional coding is precise and planned because you spend hours brainstorming on the design and other part of it, whereas vibe coding it depends on the AI that in output of the AI, okay, that's coming up, so it's more on the flexible part of it. Clear here? Any queries? Anyone? Cool. So yeah, now we'll see how AI has actually impacted software development. First thing is code generation. The amount of time, okay, because it's actually being generated by AI and using the models like ChatGPT, Codex, Gemini, Copilot, many things. Okay, and the better part of it is for the existing code that has already been written by humans, right? It can actually go through the entire code repository and then find if there are any loopholes or bugs in the code. Okay, and whatever code that you have written, it can simply understand it and maybe generate the documentation for it. Okay, so let's say tomorrow any one of you join any company, you can maybe use the code that is in the company and maybe summarize it for your better understanding. Okay, and then test cases generation. So yeah, one thing that I would suggest each and every one of you guys is if you're starting with software development, make sure your code that you have written, right, have good test cases. Okay, and then code review and refactoring. So this is also similar to the documentation part, wherein you input your entire code to AI and it will be able to suggest if there's any optimal way of doing it. Okay, so let's say if I'm maybe trying to find an element in a sorted array and I'm using linear search, maybe AI would be suggesting me to use a binary search on it. Okay, because it is comparatively faster. Okay, and now let's move to the next part. What's the limitations of using an AI? Okay, so yeah, one thing is hallucination. Okay, by hallucination I mean, so let me just tell you how an AI model works. There is a model. Okay, consider it as some kind of a black box. Okay, you have a black box. You give very good amount of data to it. You give good inputs to it, and from that black box you'll be able to pull valuable information. Okay, so right now this black box is new, and the data that we are giving is all human generated. Okay, so based on the output also is AI generated based on human data. So it is very good. Okay, but consider the case wherein down the line of 10 or maybe 15 years, whatever data that AI also will input is also again generated by AI. Okay, so at that point, AI will actually think that it is giving better output, but the output would still remain same. So that is when you call it as a hallucination state of AI. Okay, and AI can fabricate APIs or libraries. By fabricating APIs or libraries, I meant AI will think that a particular method, let's say sort method, is there in some particular library, but that doesn't actually exist. So when you actually run the code that is generated by AI, right, it would fail. So this is when your knowledge as a software engineer or some developer, you will be able to identify these kind of points. Okay, same thing, write code that looks correct but fails logically, and yeah. So these things should be thoroughly reviewed before you move your changes to production. Is it clear to here? Anyone? All good? Yes, and also this could maybe bring up security loopholes and other stuff because the AI will only know depending on the prompt that you give. So if you don't prompt it good enough, it will not be able to give you that good results. Okay. So yes, let's move to the next slide quickly. So yeah, how to build a smart application will define the scope. Like what does your application target to perform? Maybe smart chatbot recommendation system, image classifier, or maybe some automation agent that you want. Okay, and you'll also decide on the user input and output flows. Clear? And then now that your model is ready, you need to decide what kind of data you give to it. Okay, so the data source could either be an API, as uh, Venkat Teja said, an application programming interface, or you can directly give a database to it, or you can use a user input or a scraping tool, web scraping tool. Anyone knows what web scraping is? Any guesses? Yeah, I'll tell that. So web scraping is basically when you get a website, right, or a web page on the internet, there is something called as a web crawler that will actually go through the entire page and give you all the data of it. Okay, and to store the data, you can use SQL or NoSQL databases, Postgres, MySQL, MongoDB, and Firestore, and you also use vector DBs. This is also something that's really good. We'll discuss it later. Okay. And now that you have your model ready, sorry, you have the what do you say, a scope of your model ready, you have your data set ready. Now you want to actually train your model. Okay. So for models, you can either use the existing models that are generated by these big tech companies, maybe OpenAI, ChatGPT, other open source models, or you can build your own models using scikit-learn or TensorFlow, PyTorch. Okay. And then we can see what else can be added to the natural processing part of it. Okay, by natural processing, I mean how do you query it and how does the model respond back to you? Okay, and so the data that we give to the AI, right, it needs to be clear. What do you say? Go through some steps of data pre-processing. Okay, that would involve tokenization, stop word removal, resizing, and normalization. And then once the model is ready for an API to actually use it, we need to convert it into an API format. Okay. And yeah, want to ask a question. So, does anyone know what is SAS, PAS, IaaS? Any idea on it? Yeah. So SaaS is basically software as a service. PaaS is a platform as a service, and IaaS is infrastructure as a service. Okay. So with this particular thing, AI coming up, AI also has something called as AAS. This is agent as a service or AI as a service. We'll also discuss about that. So yeah, now that your model is also ready, you can get started with your front end and back end development. This is basically some back end business logic and the way user wants to interact with the model. So you'll be having a UI ready for it. Clear till here? Yes or no? So we can move to the next part of it. Cool. So yeah. Now we'll see what do we actually learn in this particular course. We'll take a look at Python programming from scratch. It doesn't matter if you have some programming knowledge or you're completely new to programming. We'll start it from scratch. And then we'll get started with building full stack applications using Python and React.js and MongoDB. Okay. React.js for front end, Python for back end, and MongoDB as a database. Okay. And then we'll explore a few Python libraries like Pandas, Natural Language Toolkit, and some other Python libraries. We'll also learn how to master prompt engineering. Let's say you have a complex problem statement. How do you break down into subparts such that you'll be having maximum response from AI, okay, maximum productivity gains, and then building AI workflow with N8N. Okay, this is an interesting section, and then integrating AI into your daily workflows for enhanced productivity. So how you can actually make some tedious tasks of your life easy using AI, and we'll also discuss. What does it take to maybe foolproof your career in the age of AI? How to have things secured and how to be aware of it. And we'll also try creating some anyone. How to get a job like this? So yeah, that's a tricky question to ask. Maybe study well. Okay, get good at programming. Concentrate on DSA as well. DSA is also like really important. Okay. Yeah. So now that this DSA topic came up, right, I'll just drop a link. This is something that I've learned DSA from. Basically, these are the notes that I've written and posted it on the internet. And I made a web application out of it so that everyone can access it. Maybe you can use that. Okay. Yeah. Any questions here regarding the roadmap of the internship that we'll be having? Clear, right? Yes. Yeah, and also I'll be going through the course curriculum in detail. Give me just a minute. Yes, just skip the introductory part. Okay. Yeah, so this entire internship would be spanning for 4 weeks. That's something that we are targeting for. So the first week would mostly concentrate on Python, basically to get started with what does it take to program in Python, syntax, object-oriented part of it, what is a virtual environment, and every other details. And then to know, so I personally believe your backend is as good as your data. So let's start with data first. how to have your database organized, how to have it structured in a scalable manner. Okay. And then for backend, we'll be using something called as Fast API. Okay. So we'll be learning how to build basic endpoints and basic APIs for that. And for UI, we'll also go through HTML, CSS, and we'll have a short crash course on React. We'll not be concentrating that heavy on React, but we'll work on whatever is required. Okay. And then for week two, we'll basically integrate whatever we have learned in week one and week two, try making some good projects out of it. Okay. We'll see how to get authorization checks and authentication checks using backend, that is Fast API. And then from UI, we'll see context API, state management, and how to actually make API calls. And for MongoDB, we'll see how to build complex queries. Okay. And then we'll have one project, that's your personal finance tracker. Okay. And in the week three, we'll build two more projects. One is a student collaboration hub. Other one is a job aggregator dashboard. Okay. And for AI power projects, we'll be building some cool projects. Okay. The first one would be AI article summarizer. So basically, you give your AI a web page link, and it will summarize the entire content in that particular web page. And then we'll build a digital portfolio. Okay. How you can actually build using forms. We'll try to have it in a no-code way. Okay. And then AI knowledge assistant. This is basically a chatbot on your uploaded documents. So let's say I upload a document, and then I'll ask questions out of it. Maybe let's say you don't have time for your entire to go through your entire course or your entire textbook. You just upload the PDF and then query on it. Like, what is the, maybe you have some set of important questions. Maybe you can put in those questions for this particular AI knowledge assistant, and it will give you the response from that particular PDF. Okay. And yeah, these are the projects that you'll be building. Okay. And yes, you have already discussed on the career opportunities. Yes. So while Mahidhar joins through mobile, right, I dropped two links. Okay. One is my portfolio link that isn't updated as of now. That's something that I've used to apply for my colleges and sorry, when I was graduated out of college, okay, for other companies. And the second link is my LinkedIn link. So in case if you guys need any assistance in any guidance or in anything, feel free to drop a message. Okay. And another question. So, yeah, does anyone know what learning in public is? Any idea on it? Yes, no. If it's a no, then you guys should go and check out what learning in public is. That is something that's really, what do you say, is being looked out for in a college graduate as of today. It's basically like whatever projects or whatever you learn, right? You document it somewhere. Either you push it to GitHub or you post it in X or you post it in LinkedIn somewhere, such that seeing this as a proof of work, right? Whatever companies that are hiring, they would hire you. Okay, this is like a proof of work. Yes, you're audible. Yeah, right. So one thing from my end. Um, so we are planning to start this on May 20th, right, around that particular time period. So what I would suggest is people who are interested to join, right, uh, before you actually join, have some clear understanding on what kind of project you actually want to build out of it. So let's say if I'm a second year college going student, by the time I want to complete this internship, maybe I'll have in my mind I need to build something like a uh, maybe something like a WhatsApp clone or Instagram clone. So have a clear picture in mind. Okay, have some clarity, have an aim. Just so it'll only be beneficial when you actually target something and then work rigorously towards it. Okay? Yeah, that's from my end. Any other queries? Anyone?
Yes, sir. So actually, I have seen that you're also a great competitive programmer. So could you please just tell how did you start with CP and that would be very helpful.
See, so CP rate. I started it out good, but then I was a person. I mean, at least at that time, right? I was more into the development part of it. Okay, I started with competitive programming. I gave few contests here and there, but it's development that has excited me more. While I was on the development, I never left DSA. So there are two things here. Competitive programming is different. Data structures and algorithms is different. Okay.
Yes.
Competitive programming, it will get you good ranking, maybe on CodeChef and Codeforces. So based on the CP ranking, it will make your profile screening easy for big tech companies like Microsoft and Google, Amazon, and other stuff. But instead of having this, it's also necessary that you'll have some good knowledge on development, not necessarily the end-to-end flow of it, but at least be aware of what technologies do we use and the basics of it. Okay, because yeah, it's always good to have these things, and whether you choose competitive programming or not, make sure you always do DSA. That is something I suggest.
Thank you. Can you recommend any resources that I can start with CP?
So one thing I'm not, I think pretty, I mean, many of you should be aware of it. There is a guy called Striver. Okay, Take You Forward is his channel name. That's a good resource. I mean, it has everything summed up. That should be fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we display these projects in our link? Yeah, sure. Can do that. Any other questions? Yep. Thanks, sir. So yeah, one thing before we drop off. So if anyone wants any assistance or any guidance on how to like uh, maybe learn coding or data structures or anything, or maybe if you're planning for a startup, not able to go through the architecture of it, or any kind of issues you're facing, or maybe if you're looking out for freelancing or unable to find leads, just let me know. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Before everybody leave, a special thanks from behalf of the students again. And we are very thankful, Karun Karthik sir, for taking this session and giving beautiful insights that would help the students very much. And we also thank from our bottom of heart to EduMoon also for providing us such a great platform to showcase all of our talents and also help us to brighten up in our life, motivating us, providing us resources, webinars, internship, and all. And we thank you from our bottom of our hearts. We are very grateful for this. And one last thing I would like to say, let's take a moment to say thank you in Python. Python, open bracket, a semicolon in between, thank you, close the string, I mean with semicolon and then a bracket again. So thank you so much. Let us keep coding, let us keep learning, let us keep giving prompts also. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining the session. And special thanks to Karan Karthik sir, Mahidhar sir, and also our HOD ma'am, and our very, very dear Boona ma'am also for providing us this opportunity. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.